talking about the energetic perspective, that we're always seeing it through the lens of improvement and evolution. We always see it from the perspective of what else is there, what is the higher expression. And with that, we are beginning to recognize that there is more to us than just being this, bag of flesh, and sort of random impulses, that our relationships are not just coincidences. Back, everybody, to our energy update for week 36. That is the 3rd till the 9th of September. Yeah, my name is Jona Bryndis. I'm an energy healer, coach, and trainer for other professionals in energy awareness. And today we are looking at the energies of this next week. We are at the start of September. So following this energy update, I'm going to do a brief energy forecast for September. So stay tuned. We will talk about these outer energies that we can feel coming in. Again, those are not necessarily predictions. Those are energies that those of you who are energetically sensitive and empathic perhaps already are picking up on. Those are things that influence the way we feel about ourselves, the way we make decisions, and also our ability to trust in ourselves. And the key word trust here is the main healing resonance for September. More about this in the forecast, how we can use this very high vibratory energy to heal ourselves, not necessarily in the sense of being broken, flawed, or imperfect, but in the sense of moving toward the things that we truly want to strive for, the things that tune us into these higher vibratory goals in life, such as happiness, peace, love, freedom, etc. Not to forget truth. So let's look at the micro here for a moment, and just how these energies that are coming in right now. So obviously energies aren't going by calendar weeks or calendar years or months, but we do have seasons, we do have cycles, and anyone who's interested in astrology can see that there are these cycles that are recurring, and this cycle here is quite interesting that we're in, called forced transformation. And this is a process that happens once every, almost 100 years, 120 years. So there's a transition. This started right around 2012. And what this is doing to us, and this is the backdrop basically to everything that we're experiencing here, is that it forces us to be confronted with untruths in the externals, things that we see in politics, we see in the economy, we see in how we treat the planet, how we treat another, social contracts and legal aspects and so forth. I don't really need to go into this. You guys are all aware of this, and you're aware of the state of affairs at this time in the world. You guys are all from different parts of this world, so you have a slightly different perspective, but the overall impression right now is that it feels chaotic. It feels like things are changing a lot. And one of our main tasks, not just in this week, not just in this month, is to find the balance in all this change. So I think we can agree that change is a very, very powerful force that can help us to improve ourselves, that can help us to evolve, to grow. But it is also something that triggers our fears, that triggers our ego's sense of security, that needs to be balanced. So if we are making too big changes, many of you know what I'm talking about, then it's possible that we get pulled into a fear that then works like a counterforce to our willingness, to our intention to change. And a lot of times, in traditional mental coaching, we look at motivation and we look at, what the person truly wants. But when we look at things here through the energetic lens, okay, that we will see other things. We see a higher octave of things. We see, like the minimum maybe, and then the optimum. And, for us to maneuver and to really work the space between, minimum requirements, what I need and what I want, and optimum, what truly makes me feel alive, what truly brings me energy, what allows me to express myself in this highest expression that I can find for myself, that brings me peace because I'm no longer conflicted within. These things are the things that people who are energetically sensitive and who have been around in their life a little bit, tried a few things, perhaps even had multiple careers already, are interested in. So let's not confuse this. This is very important for this discernment process that I will talk about here in a few moments, and why we really need to learn how the mechanics of that discernment works. So we're not necessarily looking at life from the perspective of just surviving life. That would be a very materialistic point of view. It would include that all we believe in is that there is nothing else but this physical life. Now, everybody has the right to have their fundamental life view. But I want to make sure that you understand that when we are talking about the energetic perspective, that we're always seeing it through the lens of improvement and evolution. We always see it from the perspective of what else is there, what is the higher expression. And with that, we are beginning to recognize that there is more to us than just being this, bag of flesh, and sort of random impulses, that our relationships are not just coincidences. This is a fundamental life view underneath, understanding ourselves as, let's say, a spirit being or a soul in a body, as opposed to seeing ourselves as a body that may or may not have some kind of soul or spirit attachment. So all that said, obviously, there's different spiritual schools and religions and so forth that can fill this up with content. But if you let go of the content and just follow me here, in this investigation of how it actually works that we make decisions. We all know that it's not really what happens, but how we choose to deal with things that determines whether we are happy, whether we have a feeling of optimism, or whether we feel defeated, whether we feel powerless and, buy into our own negativity. So it's not really what happens. There's a relativity to that. If somebody, for example, can recontextualize what they're working on, even if they still have to go through hard times or they have to deal with a lot of challenges, as a matter of improvement, as a matter of progress, and they see how much they've already progressed, it can help them to, and this is an energetic lingo term, out vibrate the challenges that are currently occurring. This is where our ability to contextualize comes in. So if I see my life as just a sort of a series of unfortunate events, I have a higher chance of seeing everything that kind of disturbs my sort of comfort zone as something negative, and with it, form a life view that is more pessimistic. If I see my life as a constant improvement process to like a higher expression, if I can see the higher potential, if I can visualize the higher potential, if I can imagine it, all right, then I can see every experience as a learning experience that brings me closer to this higher expression. And with that, I've just sort of clarified the perspective, from which we are making decisions. So there's one big decision that we can make, and that is our life view. And at the very bottom of what kind of life view do we have, regardless of gender, ethnicity, and culture, and sort of national background, and so forth. We see the fundamental question of whether we see ourselves as just a random biological machine, all right, that has a certain lifespan and stops working at a certain point, or if we see ourselves as a conscious being, as a body that has its own consciousness, that has its own I am awareness. If this is a question that you can answer for yourself with a very clear, yes, I know what I am, then you can go and start defining who you are. So based on that view already, you've all seen those flow charts, those yes and no flow charts. If yes, then go here. If no, then go there. This is the most important question that you need to answer. What am I? And then comes who am I? All right. This is your personality, and this is where your ego comes in. And that has an effect on the choices and the way you perceive your life. Yeah, because, you can choose whom you want to experience this life as, right? And those of you like me who've had different lives, almost different careers, different, sort of life circumstances, yeah, you know what I mean, because you've already made a step into changing that, because there was something in you that told you that where I'm at is not really conducive. And now we come to the third flowchart, namely, okay, what is it then that I define as conducive for me? Yeah, obviously there's our fundamental needs, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, what I need, what I want, and then, later all the way to self-actualization. But let's be a little more simple here. Okay, so first priority is obviously what I need, yeah, just to survive, because we still have that 3D being. Yeah, but right there, where it comes to what I want, we already get a little bit into trouble with ourselves. And next week will show this to us. All right, it will show us that schism between what we need and what we want. And depending on your life view, it will paint a different picture, and maybe even several times throughout the day. All right, so you will experience something like a huge contrast, a huge flip-flop between the way you see life and the way you see yourself. And to cut through that, you need to answer those first three questions. What am I? Who am I? And who do I want to experience this life as? You do not need to have it all figured out. You do not need to know all the steps how to get there, but you do need to be able to imagine it. You do need to be able to have a feeling for what this higher expression of you could look like. And that has something to do with feeling alive, feeling motivated, feeling free, feeling true to yourself, feeling in peace with yourself, feeling in love with what you're doing. Now you see, a lot of people get confused, and when they communicate their goals in life, don't actually know on which level they're communicating. Okay, if it's just about survival, well, yeah, fine. Many decisions, and this is how we are conditioned to think, if they sort of meet a minimum requirement of, yes, so then if you take this job, you have enough money to pay your bills, and then you can, save up some money and maybe have some extra insurances or extra investments, and then you can have a good retirement. But is this really your goal in life? Is this really what you're striving for? Is this really going to give you peace? Is this really going to make you happy? Is this really going to make you feel alive? Yeah, so these kind of questions come in when we experience sort of discomfort, dissatisfaction, and that's where a lot of us are at right now. This next week can help you greatly with bringing in clarity into this. And I want to give you here some very, very typical energy coaching questions. You got to go beyond just normal sort of imagine, your best you. No. We want to learn the mechanics of how this goes within us. What is it in you that is making choices? How do we make choices? What in you trusts? What in you has perspectives? Who decides that? Which part of you? Yeah? What are these mindsets, these programs, these beliefs in you that are running your decisions? And for that, we need to really understand that in this investigation period where you're trying to understand the mechanics of yourself better, where you're trying to make more sense of yourself and how you make choices, that you stay neutral, You have to be absolutely non-judgmental about this. Many of you get stuck here when you start asking yourself those questions because you judge yourself for the choices that you made in the past. Guys, let that go. If you are aligned to improving, to growing, to evolving, all right, every single day you realize that the choices you did yesterday were somehow limited because you're going to experience growth every day. Your consciousness is going to expand every day. And guess what? This time period right now, this cycle that we're in right now, that's why I started there, forces you to do that. It forces you to grow. It forces you to transform all these old and limited mindsets and beliefs. And that means that the other part of you that wants to play it safe, that just wants to see life as a material sort of, thing with the shelf life, okay, needs to be investigated. So what's really important for you right now is that you understand what it actually is that can bring in more freedom, more harmony, more happiness, more peace, more health, more aliveness. Because if you don't know that, you're going to fall prey to all these powers that are out there to control what you want, to control what you believe, to make you believe, that control truth. You can sit there and complain about, these forces, let's not talk about this right now, that are doing this. But what you haven't realized yet is that you have the power to cut through that. It's that awareness, that I am awareness that you have, that allows you to think your own thoughts, to feel your own feelings, to make your own choices, to determine what it is that you're going for in this life. You don't have to adhere that. So that's, one of these paradigms that I've already talked about, the paradigm of thinking that is changing right now. One thing that we'll see in this next week is how economy and money flow and all that is about to change. It's also a forced transformation because we've maximized the system of making money work for itself. And what has it produced? It has produced a handful of extremely wealthy people and a majority, that can't even afford health insurance, at least here in the United States. Do you know what I mean? And here you see, this schism, and these extremes, that in the bigger scope of things need to be balanced out. Finding balance in change, finding balance through transformation. We're right in the middle of it. And I've predicted this before. It's going to take another 2 to 5 years, depending on where you live in this world, for us to get to a more balanced place. But for you, as active and conscious self-healers, again, you're healing not in the sense of mending what's broken, but, like improving, what can be improved. For you, it's really important that you understand the fundamental rules of how to make better choices based on what's conducive for you, based on a new paradigm of being, namely seeing yourself as this conscious being that came here with the power to transform through itself. That is unique. That is what makes us human. Yes, we're going to have to go through a lot of confusion, through a lot of mistakes, through a lot of challenges in the process. But as we are going through them, we are evolving. And these fundamental things that we need to focus on, guys, I'm going to give you this list here without further explaining them. This is what we do here in daily work at transCODES, through energy sessions, through energy coaching, through public workshops, through daily online meditations, and so forth. This is something that we all need to choose for ourselves as a consequence of realizing that there is a higher expression of ourselves. And that has to do with counteracting all the things that limit our freedom, that limit our sense of purpose, our aliveness, our inner peace, our ability to have loving relationships, our ability to think abundantly, yeah, and not get pulled into this other extreme, that sees you as just a machine that has to be kept alive. Yeah. Number one, and this is the biggest one and increasingly more important, never been more important than today, is the ability to concentrate, the ability to focus, the ability to fade out all distractions. Guys, if you're one of those who will ponder about the forces that are trying to distract you, that are trying to limit you in truth and love and freedom, all right, stop thinking about who that might be. Yeah, I'm pointing fingers and WEF and Satan and, aliens and blah, blah, blah. All that is irrelevant because you have the power to cut through that regardless of where that is coming from. All you really need to understand is that whatever we are exposed to right now is supposed to keep you away from focusing on your inner power to transform, to change, all right? Which means all you really got to do is train your own focus. And this is where meditation, mindfulness, yoga, and so forth comes in, because it directs your attention back to yourself, into your own center. And from here, you can start to think freely and to feel freely and to make choices in a more free way. And that's why that is the number one mechanism that you need to train. Number two is the thinking for yourself. Yeah. So once you actually start feeling your own thoughts, feeling your own feelings, and focusing on yourself again, you realize how much you haven't been doing that, and especially how your thoughts aren't really your own thoughts. Okay. The next then is the feeling. So feeling and emotions are not the same, but they are related. So you need to get a hang out of, the things that influence your emotions and how they influence you. Then number four is the self-study and, of your ego. Like, what is the force in you that works against some of these higher expressions that you want to see yourself? Understanding that your ego is not necessarily, like a bad or a shadow aspect of you, but that it is something that has a different task, namely to make you stay alive, not to make you feel alive, not to make you happy, but to make you stay alive. Yeah, survival. And you need to understand the mechanisms of that, what your thresholds are. This is different for every person. Then you need to develop something like a vibrational awareness. That's where this word conducive comes in. Yeah, what is good for my energy? What energizes me, or what drains me? Yeah, and make better choices in regards to the people, places, jobs that you surround yourself with. Okay. Then next comes a health awareness, a holistic health awareness. I teach this in school from kindergarten, how your emotions, your thoughts, your health habits, your spiritual understanding, and the overall sort of view of yourself plays into your physical health. Yeah, and not just your physical health, also your emotional health, your social health, your financial health. Yeah, there's mechanisms there. You just need to learn them. Nobody's taught them to you, so don't beat yourself up over them. But it's not rocket science, guys. After that, it gets a little tricky, and that's not for everyone, and that is training your perception, training your higher perception, your ability to spiritually visioning things, the things such as inner guidance, premonition. This is important for those of you who have issues with trusting in yourself. A lot of you energetically sensitives get a lot of downloads, a lot of impulses, but you don't really know what they mean. We talked about this last week. Yeah, and that can confuse you and pull you into your ego, trying, to survive things, seeing things as directed against you. That's not actually the case. Yeah, so you need to learn the mechanisms of your higher perception and do consciousness training. Yeah, so that you can form your own lexicon, your inner lexicon of sensations, and form a roadmap for yourself. Yeah, the guideposts of truth that I talked about last time. And then last but not least, it is the mechanism of inner choosing. And this is then where spiritual beliefs come in. This is then where, integrity and those higher values come in. Yeah, where you make a choice based on how you understand yourself. Yeah, as whom you want to experience this life as. This is where aspects such as wanting to have purpose and meaning, wanting to be of service, wanting to, be somehow involved in this global transformation comes in. These 8 different mechanics can all be learned. So, but you can see already, this isn't just a weekend course. This is something that one has to really wanting to learn. You have to want that. You have to have that motivation to really learn the mechanics of each of these elements that influence the quality of your choices in life. Yeah, and with that, then a lot of other question marks such as karma and relationships and so forth, they then resolve for you because you recognize how everything actually had to be the way it is or the way it was for you to arrive here. So this forced transformation right now, yeah, is fundamentally something that drives you into your higher expression. It forces you to become more alive. But not everybody is going to choose that. All right. So again, be compassionate, have, understanding if people make the choice to just wanting to stay alive, to just, going by, I guess what brings them or their egos the most sense of security, even if you disagree with that. At the end of the day, this whole era right now is something like a public awakening, a public collective awakening initiation process. Yeah, and that means that each and every one of us individuated soul selves, yeah, so people who have discovered that I am power, all right, contributes to this global, this collective awakening. And the fact that we have to go through all the shadow aspects of that and to all the confusions of it right now is not a bad thing, guys. It is needed. You know this from your personal process. The reason why we have so much difficulty with looking at truth is because our fear of discovering that we've been lying to ourselves. And yes, you will discover that. But isn't that something to celebrate? Whenever you uncover something that you were previously unaware of, when you learn to pinpoint your blind spots, when you can see your schisms and your confusions, in my world, that's something to celebrate. Because in that moment, you actually become able to change it. Until then, you're just walking through your life with blindfolds on, okay? And so next week, guys, in that way, is going to be an interesting week because it's going to, show you things. And some things will immediately work as like a motivation for you because you can see how that increases your abundance, how it increases your freedom. But at the same time, you're also going to become more aware of what impedes your freedom, what impedes your abundance, what limits you, okay? And, with that said, you may have a good feeling for what this next week is. It's all about balancing, yeah? Balance in change. Don't be afraid of change, embrace it. But you need to have a good feel for what works and what doesn't work. With that said, I'll leave you into this next week. Hope you have a great weekend, and I see you soon.